everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I am joined today by Associate Professor Dr. Suja Somanadhan, Head of Subject in Children's Nursing here in the School of Nursing, Midwifery and Health Systems. And today's discussion, we're going to be going through everything to do with her Fulbright journey, her trip over to the US, who she met, what kind of cultural excursions you got up to, and really get an insight as to how you've been spending your summer. So thank you so much, Suja, for joining us. I'm going to hand it over to you. What I'd really love is to kind of start off with or kick off with is a little bit about your background and kind of what led you to where you are now in your career.
Thank you, Emily, for the lovely introduction. And hello, everybody who is listening to us this morning. My name is Suja Somanadhan. I'm an associate professor and head of subject in children's nursing at the UCD School of Nursing, Midwifery and Health Systems. Nelson Mandela has rightly said, education is the most powerful weapon which we can use to change the world. For me, education is the key for eliminating any problems. So when I think about me as a child or me as an adult growing up, how education transformed me and my career. So when I lost my mom at the age of 9, my dad was unable to afford me or my siblings ongoing school fees. But after completing junior certificate in high first class honors, I was very fortunate to receive educational scholarship from a local family. I was a young girl. At the age of 15, I received this scholarship. That really helped me to pursue my dream and my career as in nursing and also in the healthcare settings. So I came to Ireland in 2003. I came here to work as a nurse, but I always wanted to study. I did a number of higher studies, including children's nursing. I started working with the Children's Hospital in Temple Street, where I did my PhD. I was the first nurse ever to complete a PhD in Temple Street. As you know, one of the oldest acute pediatric hospital in Ireland, founded in 1872. But I was very fortunate to work with many fantastic staff members and the patients and families and children. That really helped me to undertake this PhD in the clinical settings. And I completed PhD with the Temple Street and the University College Dublin. So that is my life. So I came to UCD in 2016 as an assistant professor. I recently promoted as an associate and also the head of discipline for children's nursing. I think in Ireland, with the new children's hospital is coming up and my role, I think there are so much we can do together to advance pediatric healthcare transformation, advancement, the way we care for children and their families. They are core for what we do. And I do oversee a number of undergraduate programs focused on children's nursing and also postgraduate programs, including cardiology, emergency nursing. We have intensive care training for pediatric as well. There are a number of pediatrics focused graduate programs, undergraduate program in UCD as well.
Sounds, Suja, like you've had an extraordinary career so far. I mean, you as you said, you came from a background in India, and now you found yourself in Ireland and really achieving quite a lot. And I suppose it kind of, you were talking a little bit about you were the first, am I right, clinical nurse to complete your PhD. I mean, that is a huge achievement, I would have thought, in and of itself. Could you talk a little bit about what is your research area, like what interests you and what, I suppose, how does that connect with your Fulbright journey? What were you trying to achieve by applying for the Fulbright program?
Thanks, Emily. That's a really a very good question. So when I did my PhD, I was a staff nurse to start with at the National Center of Metabolic Disorders, where we see a lot of children with rare metabolic conditions. I also worked with pediatric endocrine unit at Temple Street Children's Hospital. So when I started working with the metabolic, I often thought about the families, their experience of living with a lot of rare conditions. When you think about rare as a rare, 1 in 2,000, but when you bring together, there are so many children are living with a rare genetic condition. Name few: cystic fibrosis, sickle cell diseases, phenylketonuria, PKU, so many, even all the oncology pediatric cancers are rare, congenital heart defects. There are so many conditions fall under the category of rare diseases. And when you think about, I think 80% of the conditions are genetics, and half of the patients, around 70% of the patients are children and young people. So my interest when I was at nursing, a bedside nurse, caring for these families, I really was interested to their life stories. Why, how they manage as a parent, wake up in the morning, caring for the children. A lot of the children I researched at the time fall under the category of mucopolysaccharidosis. It's a rare life-limiting conditions. What that means is there are different typology. So there are categories. So I really wanted to give families a voice of their experience of caring and living with their child with the mucopolysaccharidosis. And I was supervised by Professor Philip Larkin. He's a very well-known palliative care researcher and a professional. He was working at the time in UCD. Now he's in University of Lausanne. So I was very fortunate to supervise by an expert in the field of palliative care. So my PhD again focused on one specific group of rare metabolic condition, but my PhD very much focusing another step of my research and looking at what are the evidence-based care and support available for children, young people and their family in the US. So my plan for Fulbright scholarship was to go out to US, understand the service and the model of care delivery, integrated care package available for these families and children, and how we can connect with them, what we can learn. So I can bring the learning back to Ireland to enhance our practice, our healthcare delivery, to improve the patient experience and outcome measures for the children and people living with rare diseases in the country.
It sounds like a fantastic opportunity, really, the Fulbright program. So basically, you applied and you were successful, and you decided to go and start your fellowship, your scholar journey over there this summer just passed. And so tell me a little bit about that. Where in the US did you go? What hospital were you based in? A little bit more about that would be really interesting. I'd love to hear it.
Thanks, Emily. Just wanted to say one more thing. I consider myself as a patient-oriented and a family-engaged researcher, where whatever I do, I work with the children, work with the families, work with healthcare professionals. So that's my form of work, very, very collaborative. I do a lot of co-designing, a co-production. I think that is something really important. Bringing the participatory element of engagement is key for whatever I do. So when I went to US, the first 3 months of my Fulbright Scholar program, I examined integrated care and services for children, young people, and the family living with rare diseases at the Center of Rare Disease Therapy at the UPMC Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh. So they do have the first Center of Rare Disease Therapy unit. So I was working under direct supervision and mentorship by Professor Gerard Walkley. He's known as Jerry Walkley. Professor Walkley is well-known, internationally recognized leader in the field of inborn errors of metabolism and rare disorders. So I was so fortunate to work under his direct supervision and also shadowing clinics and opportunity to work with him and his team. And also I managed to carry out a research project while I was at the UPMC Children's Hospital. I interviewed multiple professionals trying to understand their perspective of integrated care for rare diseases and what they do in their services at the UPMC Children's Hospital. During my time in Pittsburgh, I was also fortunate to connect with a number of other people where I received an opportunity to attend Dr. Bill Netch's heart camp for children at the UPMC Children's Hospital. What that means is there was around 130 children who had open heart surgery, and they come together as a team, no parents allowed. And they come together and they go do this camp, overnight camp for 5 days. So they need to learn self-management. They need to learn the transition because no parent is around. They have to learn by themselves. So that is kind of learning for me from US how to promote the self-management, independent living of these children, and how I can bring that to the Europe, not just Ireland as a European member state. Currently, I'm working on a EU cost action with a number of other European member states and also my US collaborators to enhance this program and making sure that there is something here for children and young people living with rare diseases, and how we can promote the transition, how we can promote the self-management, independent living, here in the country.
It's an important step, I think, especially as a child progresses into adulthood, the idea of self-management, and I suppose having that skill and knowledge to be able to do it. And the camp sounds like a fantastic idea for them to meet peers as well, other children who've had the same experiences as them. I would say that was it enjoyable?
It was a wonderful experience. For me, visiting the camp, and again, I have to mention the name of Keith McIntyre. He's the director of the camp, and also met a number of other clinicians and nurses, art therapists. Many people were there. For me, it's about promoting children's and also the young people leadership during this camp. So all the volunteers attending, they were former patients. They're already living with the heart diseases, but they are coming back to share their stories with the children and young people. I think that is what we need. We need that peer-supported education and training, so that you feel like you're not alone in this world. There are so many other people just like you that also really support in terms of stigma, because when you look at even for swimming, like, when you go out to swimming, everybody had open heart surgery, everybody had this scar. I think this is the reflection of who you are, why you are here, and then you believing that you are not only one in this world. There are so many people like you. This is what we need. Healthcare is important, hospital is important, but we also need a community-focused practice where we can develop that independent living for these children and young people. A lot of people have a complex conditions, chronic condition. We hear about chronic condition, but a lot of the chronic conditions also rare disorders, but people don't call rare diseases because this is the universal terminology, identified by EU Public Health, NIH. But when you think about so many conditions I mentioned earlier, they all fall under the category of rare. Rare is not rare. When you put together, so many children are living with a rare condition. And the centers I visited, they are dedicated a space for children who is attending pediatric hospital, but there is a center for rare diseases, because they recognize when a child attends a hospital more than even 3 or 4 times, seriously, they have a rare illness or a genetic condition. So they need multiple appointment, management, and it's a complex conditions. So I think we need to recognize in our healthcare system a dedicated space for children living with rare diseases, a center dedicated to their healthcare delivery, research, and education.
It does sound like a fantastic opportunity, and a key learning, I suppose, that you've brought home, or an example of something that could be applicable to the Irish healthcare system. Yeah, I'm fascinated by that story. I think that sounds, it just sounds like such an interesting insight into where we could go into the future. Especially with the new children's hospital as well. We'd hope that possibly there will be these spaces and the opportunity to do such things. And Suja, talk to me a little bit about, was there anything else in your kind of, you mentioned that you were under supervision for a period of time of your fellowship over there. Was there anything else that you wanted to bring up or discuss about that time? Of course, we will definitely discuss about the cultural kind of excursions and I suppose more of the tourist aspects of being over the fantastic opportunity that the scholarship brings in that regard. But was there anything else from the research side of things that you felt that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight a couple of key things before we go into historical landmarks. I was invited by Professor Yvette Perry Conley. She's a professor of nursing and human genetics from University Pittsburgh. So I was fortunate to receive an invitation to present at their webinar they do this webinar looking at the genomics of patient outcome hub webinar. So I was invited to this webinar, and I also managed to bring a core research group from Ireland. So I have a program called Raindrop, which is Rare Disease Research Partnership, where I have a core patient public engagement forum as part of this Raindrop engagement. So I managed to, me and my team, I mean, a parent, patient, for example, Anne Lawler, she's the CEO, she's the lead PPI lead in the Raindrop, and she's also parent, and she's also 22q11 deletion lead in Ireland. And we have then Bernadette Gilroy. Bernadette is representing PKU Association Ireland. She was there with me. And also Les Martin is a newborn screening advocate, and he was there as well. And Julie Power is a patient herself, but she's a very well-known patient advocate for rare diseases. So 5 of us managed to do a webinar looking at transforming rare disease research through patient and public engagement. The reason we did that, in the US, there are so much research is happening in terms of clinical trial, clinical focus research, but very little with patient and public engagement or a patient focus research. So they consider me as an expert in patient focus researcher. So this was a great opportunity, the way we designed a partnership in Ireland. We identified the top 15 research priority for rare disease in Ireland. So we were able to present our findings. So this all about, we co-designed, we co-produced, and co-published. We published together at the end. So this is a journey of a patient engagement we presented at the University of Pittsburgh, and we received a really excellent feedback. So I know I have too many visits, so I may keep going. And then I visited the Cleveland Clinic, where a colleague of mine and a mentor, Dr. Cynthia Danforth, she's a NACE scientist at the Cleveland Clinic. So they have an office of nursing, research, and innovation, where I had opportunity to meet many NACE scientists. So they have, it's a big hospital. Oh my God, Cleveland Clinic is a huge, large, one of the best hospitals in the US. But they do have a dedicated space and dedicated NACE scientists to work with the staff on the ground. So it's very much, they have this office of nursing research and innovation. For example, we could do something similar with the Irelandish Hospital Group, with the UCD and other universities. There's creating a hub where you have a collaboration and engagement with a clinical and academic. So the bridging the gap between theory and practice. So I managed to meet Dr. Nancy Albert. She's an Associate Chief Nursing Officer at the Office of Nursing Research Innovation at the Cleveland Clinic. So herself and her team, they are so innovative. They have designed and developed a number of innovative ideas and a prototype from a nursing research perspective. They're very willing to come or even do a webinar with us in the UCD and other clinical partners to demonstrate or highlight how they managed to create a center for nursing research innovation at the Cleveland Clinic, and what we can learn from them so that we can promote clinical and academic partnership here in Ireland. So that was a great learning for me. And I have a clinical partners from Cleveland Clinic at the moment.
I think that's a great opportunity, isn't it, for researchers to find new collaborators for particular projects that you might be looking at. It definitely it sounds like it was an exchange of ideas, both from your US counterparts and learnings from our own system, and how potentially they could be introduced into the US system. So it sounds like a knowledge exchange extravaganza by all accounts, fit into a very short period of time by all accounts. And I definitely, just listening to you, you sound inspired by the trip, and that it really was worth it to go over. And I suppose that kind of leads on a little bit to the other aspect of the idea of the program in terms of cultural exchange and the opportunity to travel over to the US and stay there for a period of time. So what kind of outside of research, was there any kind of particular excursions that you did that you particularly enjoyed, or you wanted to share? That's definitely an important part of the journey.
During my time, so I did 2 visits. So one in Pittsburgh, one in Washington, D.C. So I will say about D.C. in a minute. But Pittsburgh was culturally rich place to be in. I really miss Pittsburgh because it's really engaging community. So I managed to stay with the family, a host family. So they have 2 little children, 9 months, 6 months, and a 2-year-old. But they're really, to me, integration is start with the living with the family, the real American history and culture, integrating with them and having a meal together, going out with them. So that really give me real insight of what is real America, US look like. Sometimes you learn, you hear a lot of things in the Fox News, but that's not the reality. Reality is the real people. So you need to really have an engagement with the real people. So during my visit Pittsburgh, I managed to visit Falling Water, which is a very historical landmark. So just give me one sec. The Falling Water is a house designed by architect Frank Lloyd Wright in 1935. So really beautiful house is in the middle of a waterfall. So that was a really good landmark visit for me during my time in Pittsburgh. Then we look at the Pittsburgh. So during my final stage of my Pittsburgh, I need to come back to Washington. So my family came because I need to move from Pittsburgh to DC. I don't drive in the US. So they came over for a visit for a week and a half. So we managed to then drive to Niagara Falls one of the weekends. And because Pittsburgh to Niagara is only 4.5 hours drive, that was really beautiful because when you look at I know if anyone went to Niagara Falls, you have American side, you have Canadian side, where you'll see these 3 falls, the American Falls, the Bridal Veil Falls, and the Horseshoes Fall, which is in the Canadian side. It was beautiful, and I could share a couple of pictures with you. I would encourage anybody wanted to visit Niagara Falls, please. It's really beautiful in the daytime. Then you realize the beauty of the nature, the power of the water, because it's constant flow. So I think that is something I would recommend. And I also managed to go to New York City and the Times Square. I think this is my first time. That was wonderful for a day trip. So then I moved to Washington, D.C. at final stage of my Fulbright, where I worked with the National Institute of Health. So that was a extraordinary experience for me. Because even as a kid, as a nurse, I always look up National Institute of Health. I never ever thought I could go and work with National Institute of Health as a nurse, but I did it. I got this Fulbright scholarship where I managed to work with Office of Rare Disease Research, Innovation and Impact, which is part of the Translational Science Unit at the NIH. So I was supervised, mentored by Dr. Philip Brook. He's the acting director of the division. So where I engaged with a number of rare disease community, and we looked into a patient toolkit. So they really want me to engage with them in terms of designing. They already designed a toolkit, but they would like my contribution in terms of the patient toolkit for rare diseases, and address the complex challenges faced by these patients and the community and the families. And also I did a webinar with my Raindrop colleagues at the NIH as well to engage and highlight the need of working in collaboration with the patient, because they are the real expert in their own conditions. It's really important we engage with them, learn from them, so that we can enhance the toolkit. Then people understand the journey of a rare disease patient journey through their stories. So that's what I was doing while I was at the NIH. But another interesting fact, I also went to visit the Children's National, which is Children's Inn, which is the part of the NIH. A lot of children with rare diseases come for clinical trials, but this is a house. They offer all the facilities for the children and the family. It's like a home. So when they come for the clinical trial, they are not in this hospital situation, they are in the home situation. So they go to the clinical trial center, they come back and stay here. It's like a hospital, but it's set up like a home. So it's really a meaningful way of engaging with the children. They have artists, they have therapists, They have all the facilities, kitchen, they have the entertainments. I think that's what we need. We want to make sure the children are engaged in their own developmental stage, not like a hospital patients group. I managed to then visit Children's National, which is a children's hospital at the Washington, D.C., where I met Professor Pamela Hines. She's the very well-known pediatric nursing researcher at the Children's Hospital in Washington, D.C. That was a fantastic meeting with herself. Also, I met with Dr. Marshall Summer. He's the Division Chief Genetics and Metabolic. He's the Director of Rare Disease Institute Research and Innovation Campus at the Washington, D.C. The reason I wanted to highlight these, they have a children's hospital, but they also managed to build a rare disease research center for children and young people and the family. As you mentioned earlier, this is a right time for us. We have a new children's hospital is building, and we know there are so many children are living with rare disease in the country, especially as an island of Ireland. We have genetic pool. We have a high number of genetic condition in Ireland. I think it's a timely, and one of the best example is Children's National, and they have a rare disease research institute. And I know they have told me they managed to find a donor. And anybody listening to me today, if there is any donor who is interested, invested in a rare disease research institute, it's a timely for Ireland. You know, it's a fantastic to have a state-of-art building for research, clinical facilities, and other activities for children living with rare diseases in the country at the moment. So that was another wonderful experience, Emily. Again, they have 8,500 visits there. They have 12 physicians. Even for us, even genetics, we need a lot of improvement. One thing I wanted to highlight in the US, genetics is a core component, competency for nurses and midwife. In Ireland, as we know, genetics and genomics are not part of the nursing curriculum. It's a part of the curriculum. We need much more investment, much more training, so that everybody understand, because we all human beings, we need to understand genetics and genomics, because that is a new way of medication, new way of treatment, new way of diagnosis, new way of, even when you take, as a nurse, when you take a history of a patient, you need to ask them any family history of for example, cancer, any family history of any other conditions. So why do you collect a history? Why you need a pedigree of a family? So these are core element. So that's what I'm trying to think. When I met with a lot of professors in nursing, in human genetics and genomics, we need to invest, we need to look at our curriculum, we need to enhance and promote teaching and education for nurses and midwives in the country as well.
I think that's a really key point, actually, and definitely a very good learning to bring back from your journey. I suppose, like, to summarize, Suja, you've gone through kind of the key elements of what you hope to bring back, but was there anything out of all those visits and all those meetings and everything that you got up to, which was quite a lot by the sounds of it? Was there anything that really stuck out that you said, I really need to bring that home, I really need to put that into practice? What was it that something you learned that you really got excited about?
One thing I would like to say, everyone in the US, I met so many people, so many institutions, so many universities, but everyone, even a lot of people can't pronounce my name, but they all take an effort to understand or pronounce correctly. That was really good and standing out for me. Equality, diversity, inclusion is core for any business they do in the US. I think that is something we need to bring it back. I know we have a lot of movement is happening. We also need to recognize and understand ethnicity, minority, including the LGBTQ+, but we also need other ethnicity and minority as well. I think we need to promote a cultural diversity in Ireland. That's something I felt, oh my God, I never felt I'm different. I feel like I'm part of a community. I think this is what I would like to see here, even as a global university of Ireland, UCD. We have so many students coming from all over the world. I think this is an opportunity for us to enhance and improve the way we think, the way we practice EDI, And also in terms of funders, even with NIH, they have a special forum where they look up and see how they are funding. They are trying to improve the funding for women of color, ethnicity, minority. They want to embrace. So I met with Dr. Kathy Carlson. She's the NACE lead, but also genomic lead for Cancer Trial Center at the NIH. So when we had a really good conversation, she's also a chair of the global genomics, NACE genomics in the global perspective. So even while our conversation, even what I heard was, it's about the talent. It's about talent. It's about ability. Who do you bring? Why do you promote? Why do you support? I think that's what we need to look. We need to think creatively. We need to think, innovate, bring more innovation, ideas, create. We need to think differently. If everybody think the same way, what is the difference? What is the point? So we need to bring and embrace. I know I speak differently, but we need to embrace everybody's different. Everybody's unique. We all bring a unique ability to the table, and we need to respect each other. I think that's what I would like to. It's a message for everybody. I think start respecting each other, and we all unique, and we all fabulous, and we need to start, embracing who we are, what we are going to offer to the table.
I think that's a really, really valuable point, and thank you for sharing that experience. I think as well, I think the reality of the stereotypical nurse is no longer what we think it is anymore, and the workforce is highly integrated, I would think, in Ireland, and is becoming more so, especially with the, we see it day to day in the classroom and everything. So I think what you're suggesting is where we need to go, and we're doing good at the moment. We definitely could do better, and I think the examples you've seen in the US really bring that to the forefront. I suppose we're drawn to the end, Suja, and the last kind of thing I wanted to discuss with you is just, there possibly is people listening to this who are interested in applying for the Fulbright program, and there's two avenues in terms of if you want to go for a student or a scholar program. And do you have any advice or any kind of parting words as to anyone who's considering it, and what they should do? Is there anything that any top tips you might give them?
Yeah, I think my advice would be start preparing early. So when I was a student, my supervisor, Professor Philip Larkin, was a Fulbright scholar, So I was thinking, so you need to think, you need to see yourself into the space. So I learned a lot from my supervisor at the time, and then start preparing early and identify a host institution. And there are so many alumni at the UCD at the moment. So contact alumni through even Fulbright Commission or through UCD, and talking to them and listen to their experience, Again, think about what you want to do. It's about your passion, and this is an opportunity for you to, chase your dreams. So do that, and then when preparing application, is really important you read carefully. There are Irish guidelines, there is US. So review the application instruction and the process, read the guidelines clearly, plan ahead. What that means is advanced planning. That'll give you so much time. Again, put together a thoughtful and compelling application, which is really key. Why there are three different categories: lectureship, and research. What I did was research. Again, my scholarship is called Fulbright. Okay, I think it's called, give me one sec. It's a Fulbright Health Impact Scholar, which is again between Health Research Board Ireland and Fulbright Commission Ireland. Just want to say one or two words about Fulbright, why that's important. I think when you think about Fulbright, Fulbright scholarship is one of the most prestigious scholarships you could ever think of. It's a flagship international educational exchange program. It helped to create connections in a complex and a challenging world. And it started in 1946. So again, this is given so many hundreds of thousands of passionate and accomplished students, scholars, teachers, researchers to go to US, to many other countries, or US come to Ireland or other countries. At the moment, I think there are 160 countries involved. So in Ireland, what I did, there's a Fulbright Commission and Health Research Board Ireland offering unique opportunity for Irish professionals to travel to US and undertake a research. And this award is called Fulbright HRB Health Impact Award. So I was a recipient in 2019, I know, but my visit was postponed twice due to COVID-19 related travel restrictions. So one way I am fortunate, I went after COVID. I know still we are living in the COVID, but I kind of managed to get a more normal life rather than a restricted life during COVID. So, restriction was very much eased. I was managed to visit many places I want. When I was able to even go out for a meal at the restaurant, so these are the very normal thing. So in a way, I was upset when my travel was canceled twice, but I am delighted it's all over and I am back to my family. I think hardest things for me was leaving my family behind, especially my son and my husband. My son is now 14. At least now, I think he is now more self-independent. One way is a good promoting self-independent living. He's able to cook and look after himself. But at the same time, as a mom, it was difficult. But I managed and my family managed. I wouldn't be able to do with this without my family support or my colleagues' support at the UCD. So I really wanted to say thank you, everybody. And if I can do this, it's never too late. So if I can do this Fulbright scholarship, anyone who is listening to me, they can do it too. I never ever imagined that I'll do higher studies or I'll do a PhD. I go to US to do a Fulbright Fellowship. I never thought about it. So that's what you need to chase your dream. If you have a dream as a girl, you need to chase your dream. You need to focus. There are so many people out there and you can look up. If anybody wants to get any advice or tips, I'm happy. I'm available. You can contact me through Twitter or LinkedIn or even email me. So happy to support and all the best with all the applicants. It was a wonderful opportunity and I would recommend to anyone. If I could get another opportunity to go as a Fulbright, I will go again. Thank you.
I'm sure you would, Suja. I think that's been a really inspiring story. And I think it's probably helped people get to know you a little bit better and how your career has progressed to this point and where you're planning on going with it. I think people are going to enjoy listening to this. I hope so. I've really enjoyed talking to you today. And I just want to thank you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and your learnings with us. And we will talk to you soon. And I hope, can't wait to see what you get up to over the time. So thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who's listened today. We really appreciate your time. And hopefully this has inspired you to really consider this Fulbright journey that Suja was on.